When you've got Game Pass, the good times last. While the latest wave certainly lacked in major day one releases, I would argue this is one of the strongest lineups in recent history. We're talking AAA games connected to some of 2026's biggest sequels, one of the most exciting action single-player campaigns of the past couple of years, and even a sleeper hit that's been climbing the Steam charts since last month. As always, check the on-screen details to know if each entry is available for your tier and platform. We're mere weeks away from the launch of Resident Evil Requiem, which makes it a great time for a replay of the previous game, Resident Evil Village. With nearly 3 decades of hard-baked continuity, the franchise might seem intimidating, but Capcom has always made each new game into a great entry point. Cause let's be honest, no matter how much lore you consumed over the years, nobody was expecting the big lady and her vampire daughters. Part of the fun of Resident Evil is being utterly baffled by the impossible events and progressively being given a backstory that actually makes sense. You would be forgiven for missing Star Wars Outlaws upon launch. For all of its good qualities, the technical problems left most players lukewarm. But don't let that stop you from checking out Outlaws on Game Pass now, because Ubisoft has dropped a barrage of patches, pushing this galactic journey into one of the most compelling open worlds of this generation. Now you won't be reliving the population-dense opening of Attack of the Clones. Think more classic Star Wars with large empty environments you can zip past to stealth and action set pieces. It's an old-school vibe with dusty tech and skeezy characters, and you can play it right now. This next entry is for our Xbox Rogue Ally X users, as Death Stranding Director's Cut is one of the games optimized for your handheld. Although you might want to throw those cutscenes on a big screen, as they're lengthy, brilliantly strange, and works both as a technical showcase of the Decimal engine and a high watermark in video game storytelling. Okay, high praise, but what do you actually do in the game? Well, you just go on long walks, but all the subtle mechanics of maintaining balance and temporary weather changes even before facing different enemies is an absorbing, grounded simulation of a surreal art piece. There's certainly been concern by gamers that the classic all-thriller, no-filler single-player campaign was getting lost in the shuffle of multiplayer-only projects. But then Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 comes along and effortlessly shows you can actually do both. The story mode distills all the bombastic imagery of Warhammer 40k and delivers a brutal, firearm-fueled third-person shooter. It's great, but don't sleep on the online co-op that gives friends the endless hordes of a bygone era. If you in the chat have been looking to relive the glory days of 4 AM Gears of War marathons, this is a fantastic time sink. But don't you worry, completionists, I see you. Do you really need to play Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine Master Crafted Edition to appreciate the sequel? No, you do not. But considering this single player was so good it caused fans to loudly plead for a sequel for over a decade, I'd say it's worth a look. But why jump into the technical conflicts of the 2011 version when the Master Crafted Edition provides a smoother and better looking experience? There was certainly some questioning if those improvements were worth double dipping, but now on Game Pass you can experience the entire story so far in Space Marine 1 and Space Marine 2. And it's in their best versions. That's convenient. 2025 had a heaping helping of retro excellence, and no, we're not talking nostalgia. For example, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is far easier than its original trilogy or even the 3D incarnations, making it more accessible. But it's also not interested in giving players a free pass for bad technical play. For some reason, the ninjas are masters of combat, but you can't swing up or down, giving that classic conceit of mechanics that aren't logical but make the gameplay tangibly sticky and addictive. Each boss fight is simple enough that it can be defeated in a few tries, but it's the explosive pixel art, pulsing tunes, and generous button mashing that makes it a worthy successor to the Ninja Gaiden name. Sorry everybody, but Quarantine Zone The Last Check is decidedly limited to the PC. But after spending several hours with this gloomy zombie survivor camp simulator, I can firmly recommend this as a must download, especially if you feel like you've already played everything. You won't be fighting zombies, well, mostly. You'll be inspecting the incoming survivors to your well-guarded camp. It seems easy enough, but before long you might have to vivisect a living person for scientific research. What? They're already a goner. But then again, Quarantine Zone won't stop you from making the wrong choices. Whoops. If you're somewhere snowy for wintertime, you might be experiencing cabin fever. Well, one way to cure that is by keeping the mind sharp with puzzle games. And there are a few that have the presentation and brain matter to match the Talos Principle too. This puzzler does a great job of making you feel utterly baffled just before the first domino of information comes together and you feel like the smartest person in the whole world. Well, for about 30 seconds, and then you'll be wandering into another oddly limited puzzle. Heck, this puzzle game is so fun, you might be playing till summer. There's a ton of incredible video games from the past that are worth exploring solely for their cultural influence. However, that requires all sorts of dated hardware or alternative softwares, and it's just a big hassle for the uncommitted. If that sort of academic play isn't quite for you, you're in luck. Square Enix have re-released their formative Final Fantasy role-playing games for modern audiences. No, you won't be controlling 3D polygons, but this is still meant to retain the spirit of the originals while fitting nicely on modern screens. Who knew a nearly 40-year-old RPG could be so enthralling? Atomfall sounds like so many other popular games that it can be a bit misleading. Yes, you could say this is Fallout's storyline but with a more British twang, and sure, you could call it BioShock if it was more committed to role-playing. But Atomfall is so disinterested in expectations, pushing players for stealth when players may want to go guns blazing, and that turns off some in the audience while becoming a fan favorite to others. Personally speaking, I like it, but not all my friends do, which is why it's a perfect fit for Game Pass. Give it a download and see which side you're on. Rematch has been one of my favorite sports games in years. Sure, it looks like Rocket League, but don't go planning any aerial maneuvers just yet. This style of soccer is grounded, tense, and team-based. Seriously, if you aren't willing to pass the ball to one of your freestanding players, you're simply not going to last, as the robust technical abilities will always be overcome by a numbers game. This makes every last-second goal, every interception, and even a perilous pass a fist-pumping good time. Don't forget to spam the chat with support. We got this. We're living in a blessed era where Metroidvanias arrive regularly, but few in the existence of the genre quite match MIO Memories in Orbit. This game just launched in January and is already attracting attention for its oddball mix of watercolor-style graphics and hauntingly lonely sci-fi setting. But this is much more than visuals, as you'll be put through the paces escaping and combating the remaining enemies on isolated space station. Combine that with a beefy double-digit runtime and you've got an early earmark for the best of 2026. Why not check it out now so you can see you played it before it was cool? Anyway, that's gonna do it for this list, but how about chat back in the comments about which of these games you've been playing on Game Pass or which you would recommend. Head over to GameRant.com for even more cool Game Pass stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks everybody!